Okay, did everybody notice how that started? Only the government had the guns. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna now meet Rudy Gonzalez. His family came from Cuba and he's gonna give a story through his mother's eyes.
Good evening, Bienvenidos. Thank you for inviting me and Julia to come here and talk to you about some of our experiences. Unfortunately, I didn't live in the socialist country, but my parents did. So I'm just kind of go through what her and I talked about through the eyes of what she went through, my grandfather and my Aunt Cucho. My mom lived in a town in Cuba called Santiago de la Vega. She loved the town. She had many friends and she did very, very well in school. And the curriculum in Cuba was pretty high. I gotta say that the education there was really top-notch, because when the kids there, what they were learning in the elementary schools is what they were teaching here in other countries, kind of in the high school area, high school grade. So my mom, when she was younger, she attended dances that were held by the town, businesses. She would go to the movies on Saturdays with my grandfather and my grandmother. She would go to the local grocery store and, pick up candies, pastries, with the money that she got for doing chores around the house, her allowance. So those days were the days of innocence. As you know, the 30s, 40s, and 50s were like that. But Cuba especially was just very nice, beautiful place. So my grandfather, Armando Ruiz, he was a very successful businessman. He owned one clothing store and 4 furniture stores. They had a beautiful home. They had 5 bedrooms. They had a maid and butler quarters, and they had a chauffeur called Quintero. My mom loved him. Capitalist at its finest. So it's one of those type of things that when you work hard, you gain things. So my grandfather was very, very close to the president at the time, was Batista. And he dibbled and dabbled in a little politics, didn't do a whole lot, but he would kind of hobnob with them, with my mom. They would go to breakfast, lunches, and dinners. So she got a chance to meet all these folks. So the folks the workers in Cuba, the farmers especially, they would sell their food, their fruits, livestock, and their vegetables to market, and they did very well for themselves. So again, something that we do here in the States, that we take advantage. We're not fortunate enough to always understand the freedom that we have. So Cuba at that time was very advanced and successful, and it was one of the Latin countries that people really, really looked at as an example. There was a lot of tourism there from the Americans, and the Americans loved it so much that they would buy homes in Cuba, and Cuba was the paradise at that time. Cuba was fueled by the sale of sugar to the United States. It was one of their big money to the country, and so was tobacco. Cuba was ranked 5th in the hemisphere in per capita income, 3rd in life expectancy, 2nd in per capita for auto and telephones, 1st in the number of TVs per inhabitant, and they ranked 11th in the world for doctors per capita. So all this being said, my mom, eventually she got married and she left to New York. And when she got to New York, she saw that they were premiering this movie. And she said, wait a minute, I've seen that movie already in Cuba a week ago. So the things that they had in Cuba would come to them, they would experience it, and they would go to the States, or they kind of got it before the fashions and things like that. They had department stores. They had a place called Woolworth, I don't know if everybody, 5 and Dime. Okay. She would go there, and even though she had the Cuban bread, she would love to eat egg salad on the wheat bread. She thought it was the best thing when she was in Cuba. And it's one of the things that she liked. So they would be able to go out and buy things and spend money that they'd earned. 1953 enters Castro. He tries to overtake president at the time, which is Batista. And notice they're called presidents. They were elected to this position. They didn't take anybody over. So it's one of the things that I always tell people, frustrates me. So what Castro did was that he put doubt into the people's minds about Batista. You kind of see that today, how you see how the media is kind of putting that in their head. So that's what he did. It kind of lingered with the folks. So come 1959, 58, he finally overtakes Batista and takes him out of office. So he starts his campaign to the people. He's promising them that they're going to have democracy, freedom, respect for human life. Who would think that there was fake news back in the 50s, but there it is. So the objective, when he was telling the people he was going to restore the rule of law back from what he was saying Batista didn't do. So again, lies, and through I'm not going to say the media, but it's through the folks there. So he promised all this, and one of the things that kind of hit me is that he said to them, and this is what my aunt was saying to me, he says, here's what he said in quote, not to have communism or Marxism in our idea. Our politics philosophy is a representative democracy, and social justice is well-planned economy. All lies. With this, he won the wealthy and of the people, the majority of the people in Cuba. So once he took over office, he went looking for these people and tried to get them to have alliance with him, which they did. Enters my grandfather. My grandfather was very lightly political, but he was very close to Batista, so he tried to get him to, move over to that side, and my grandfather decided not to. So what he did was, he put him in jail as a political prisoner. His first act was to burn down my grandfather's clothing store, and then eventually he kind of took all the furniture stores away from him. And so my family, at that point, even though they lived in a beautiful home, which was already paid for, but not really because Castro took that as well. So these are the things that people, when you look and you talk about socialism, they don't understand that these things here just, you can't, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So with all that, him doing that to my grandfather, he knew that my grandfather was diabetic and he had insulin that he had to take. So what he did is he weakened my grandfather to a point where after 9 years, because he released him in 68, 69, my grandfather came home very weak, and he died in September of 1969. He was a wonderful man, and unfortunately, I never got a chance to see him. I was born in 67. He was excited to see me, but never got a chance to. So fast forward real quick, because I don't have much time. So just kind of giving you pre-Castro and post-Castro. The conditions in Cuba now, we know it's horrible. I mean, you can see it happens. My cousin travels to Cuba every 2 to 3 months. Why? Because she takes food to them, money, and supplies. So it's really tough for these folks to live from day to day on what's given. And what I mean by given is the kids at one point will receive milk until they're 7 years old. At one point, the kids would receive milk until they're 7 years old. Now they don't receive anything, so they get no milk. They get 1 whole chicken per family per month. I mean, listen, I go to Sam's and I eat one of those myself in one sitting, so it's really sad. A bar of soap distributed to the family for the entire month. Toilet paper, if there's any, gets distributed to the family. Toilet paper over there is a commodity. I'm going to tell you, it's rare. So these are the things that really are sad. And the coffee over there is $5 a pound. So what the families do is they brew it and they reuse the grounds again to rebrew it again, and they brew it as long as they can until it doesn't taste like anything anymore. So, and then when you go to the hospital, which is really sad, they have a bed that's on the floor, or maybe up maybe up, but you have to bring your own pillows, blankets, all the things that you would need to feel comfortable at the hospital. So you look at these youth nowadays, and they talk about socialism. Oh, I want this country to be socialist. They don't understand what socialism is until they lived it. I didn't live it, but I lived it through my mom, my aunt, my grandfather. The socialism, if you look at these kids, they really, really think that it's a social status. I know that's funny to think about, but they think it's just a status. They don't look at it as a condition. And these are the things that we, as Trump supporters, as Republicans, conservatives, Latins, Greek, however you want to look at it, education is a big, big piece of what I like to tell people that I want to do. We need to educate the youth. They're the ones that are going to bring us forward. And that's the important piece. We've done some work at the colleges down in Newport Richey. We've sat there and we've had registrations with them. Out of 10 applications, there were 7 Republicans, 3 unknown, and meaning that they were either or. but they wanted to be I think one or two of them wanted to be Democrats, and we kind of talked them into being neutral, so that way they could change their party. So my message is from this here, and I'm glad that I was able to speak to you. Unfortunately, I didn't live it, but my mom did. Is socialism is a symptom of capitalism. I mean, of communism. It is the worst thing that you can do to a country. And if they think socialized medicine is any better and they think it's great, ask the folks in Canada. They would tell you that it's the worst thing, and they come migrating over here. So again, thanks a lot for letting me come up here and talk.